master students. Okay, very good. So it looks, yeah, okay, we're getting close to settling in. So almost, well, a little bit more, a little few more undergraduates, and then we have quite a few doctoral students and masters. So great. Okay, thank you so much for completing the poll. I have a few more questions, so I'm going to go on to the next one. So have you ever submitted an abstract to any conference, any STEM conference before? Yes or no? So just give me an idea about your experience level. It's okay if you have. Hopefully, either way, you're going to learn some great tips in this session, but it's helpful for me to kind of get in a sense of the experience level of everyone out there. Have you ever submitted an abstract to a conference? Okay, good. So it looks like we have quite a few that have, and some that haven't. So very good. Thank you for answering that. About equal, not quite equal, but close there. Okay, very good. I'm going to go ahead and go on to the next question. Thank you for responding. Are you planning on submitting an abstract to the ERN conference? So just kind of curious again. So this webinar is sponsored by the AAAS and the National Science Foundation, who organize and fund the ERN, or Emerging Researchers National Conference in STEM. It's a fabulous conference. If you haven't gone, I would encourage you to submit, because it's a great opportunity to go and present your research and get experience and talk to lots of other people. There are always really absolutely fabulous keynote speakers, and there's exhibitors, and then there's professional development activities. So it's a really fabulous conference. So very good. Okay, so we've got a lot of people who are planning on submitting, and some who are maybe considering. Hopefully at the end of this webinar, we'll get a better idea and maybe decide you to go ahead and submit. All right, so I'm going to go on to the next question. What are you hoping to get out of this webinar? So this is just a text response. You can put in a word, or if you want to have words that stick together, you probably want to hyphenate them, because this is going to produce a word cloud. So what are you hoping to get out of this webinar? Just so I can hopefully understand why you're here and why you wanted to join. Great. Okay, so we've got some good words coming in: clarity, information, guidance, writing, refining, insights. Let's see. Okay, so now we can see learn, guidance, and writing are the most popular, words that have been put in here. Abstract is obviously, yep, would make a lot of sense. Insight, conference papers, clarity, refining, systematic. Okay, definitely, I like that one, because I am going to go through a very systematic way to develop a good abstract. And I do bring, of course, a lot of experience writing as well as reviewing abstracts as well. So encouragement, yes, I will definitely encourage you to submit an abstract and to try out some techniques that I'm going to share with you. So great. All right. Thank you so much for sharing what you're trying to get out of the webinar. One last question. I think this is my last question. Who's your favorite scientist, engineer, mathematician, or technologist? So this is just kind of a fun question, like to throw out there to see who are the people that you're aware of that are. It could be your professor, or it could be someone famous, or whatnot. It doesn't have to be. But anyone is good there. So I think I saw Jobs, Tesla, Da Vinci, Carlota, Nikola, let's see, Stallman, I think it's Steve Jobs, Musk is out there. All right. So far, not too many. Oh, there we go. Curie is taking the lead. That's actually one of my favorite too. I did a paper on Marie Curie for my one of my undergraduate classes, and she's pretty darn amazing. I'll tell you that. Archimedes, great. I love that. Let's see who else we're getting here coming in. I wish that it kept the words together, but it doesn't. So sometimes it's hard to tell. But lots of great people in here. And so very cool. So hopefully these are people who are inspiring you to do great work in STEM. All right. Okay, very good. Jemison, oh yeah, great. Okay. Oops, so I do have one more question. Sorry about that. So what is your academic field that you're working in right now? There is longer list, so I can show you, goes through these areas, and these are the areas that are covered by the AAAS ERN Conference: biological sciences, chemical and chemistry, chemistry and chemical engine sciences, computer science and information, ecology, environmental earth sciences, math and statistics, nanoscience, physics, science and math education, technology and engineering, forensic science, data science, and convergent science. So lots of options there. So I see tech and engineering at 25. That seems to be the highest so far. All right, but we've got quite a spread of people, which is really cool and exciting. One thing I like about STEM is that how diverse it is. And one thing to note is that all of these fields are covered by the ERN conference. So it's really quite a breadth of topical areas that are covered. So let's see. So technology and engineering is still winning at 33%. We have data science as well, people in math and statistics, nanoscience, computer and information management, ecology and environmental earth sciences, and then biological sciences. So it looks like bio and tech and engineering are the winners. Okay, very good. Well, thank you so much. That is the end of this polling. And so I'm going to go back to my slides and continue on with the webinar. And let's see, there we go. There we go. There we go. All right. Okay, I should be back in full screen mode now. All right, thank you so much. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started on the webinar contents. And so I'm gonna start out briefly with a little bit about why you should even give a poster or an oral at a conference. And then we'll talk about the guidelines for the ERN abstracts, a little bit about how your abstract will be reviewed, because of course, when you prepare something, you wanna know how you're gonna be scored. And then a little bit about how to prepare your abstract, and then going over the development guide and a sample. So I'm going to first talk about a little bit about why you should even consider giving a poster if you're not already aware. But hopefully you've been really enjoying the work that you're doing in your field, and that you have some excitement for wanting to share that, and you want to communicate that with other people to demonstrate how much you've learned and all the things that you know. Believe it or not, you probably know a lot more than you think you do, but that would be a great reason to go to a conference. And another thing that people don't really often think about is how much you can learn by going to one of these events, by talking to people. When you give a presentation, you get questions and you can learn from other people. And of course, there's always the old, prizes and awards. So we'll talk a little bit about the opportunities for that at ERN as well. So some basics regarding the ERN conference. The guidelines and submissions are due on September 22nd at midnight in Pacific Standard Time. So that is a hard deadline, so make sure you meet it. And then on here is a link to the actual place where you would go in and submit it. And these slides will be shared after the webinar, so you can click on the link and have to worry about copying out that long, goofy little URL. So eligibility, basically any student who's registered as an undergraduate or graduate in a U.S. college or university is eligible. And if you have also conducted some kind of undergraduate or graduate research in any area of STEM. And people who are from some of the NSF funded programs that are listed on here are, strongly encouraged and invited to apply as well. The presentation schedule and the type of presentation. So the conference is going to be in March and on Friday, March 15th. So it starts on the Thursday with a great plenary and kind of a banquet. And then on Friday, there will be oral presentations and poster presentations on Friday and Saturday, March 15th and 16th. And when you enter your submission, you have to select either poster or oral, not both. And if you're a graduate student, your only option is to do an oral because you're a grad student, so we know you're ready for that. And that'll be a great opportunity for you to present in that format. In terms of the criteria for acceptance, you must have the following sections. So you must have a hypothesis, which basically kind of says why, what you're trying to investigate or what you try to investigate in your research. Methods and controls are basically how you went about that investigation, what your results and a discussion of the findings, your conclusions, future research, and any key references. And of course, you also always want to acknowledge your funders and your collaborators. And you will need to also get your faculty approval. So if you do get accepted, so you'll be listed in the conference application, and you do have the opportunity for cash awards, which are given out at the banquet, the closing banquet on Saturday, March 16th. And for every category, STEM, academic discipline category for both oral and poster, there are awards in both undergraduate and graduate categories. So those are separate. The undergrads are one category and the grads are another. And here are all the categories, which we saw also in the poll as well. So these are the categories which you can apply to. So if you're not sure, talk with your faculty advisor about which of the general categories makes the most sense for your submission. A few more guidelines to be aware of. You can only be the primary author on one poster or one oral, so just one per student. You could be listed as a co-author on a second, but the primary author is the one who's going to present either the poster or the oral, and you can only present one. So if you're working with other students in the same lab, but you're working independently and you want to submit, you both want to submit, or different students from the same lab want to submit, they all have to be original abstracts. They cannot be identical. They have to be original abstracts, and that will be checked. And if they're identical, they'll be rejected. Let's see, I mentioned the primary author is the one who presents. There's no co-presentations. It's just one person to present the poster or oral. And you have to get approval from all your co-authors in advance. And you want to make sure you have your faculty advisor approval before you're submitting your proposal as well. Yeah, so when we want to make sure that you adhere to the highest standards possible, which is why we're having this webinar. So we want to make sure that you run a spell check and check your grammar and your sentence structure and do this kind of the basic proofreading prior to your submission. So for the review process itself, there is a team of reviewers that Iris and her team recruit, who will go through the abstracts and read them. And here are the things that we will be looking at, kind of originality and innovation in the research itself, kind of your content, the merit of the research, the quality of the written abstract, adherence to the guidelines. Once the panel of reviewers reviews them and decisions are made, they are final. I will share with you that typically the reviewers will be in your general discipline. So if you remember the list of all the different disciplines, They would be in that discipline, but they may not necessarily be in your specific sub area. So for instance, my background is in chemistry. My research was in computational quantum mechanics, which is a very specific area of chemistry, of physical chemistry. So when I do reviews, I review I potentially could review any abstract in chemistry. So that means I could be reviewing organic chemistry, experimental work, as well as inorganic. So chemistry is a very broad field. So I'm just really wanting to give you that tip right now to keep in mind that someone who's reviewing your abstract it's more likely that they are not familiar with your specific research than they are. So you want to keep that in mind, and I'll talk more about that a little bit later. So the reasons why your abstract might not be accepted are here, kind of going over basically the things that we said were required. If you don't include them and you're not clear about your hypothesis or your methods or your results or your conclusions, then those are reasons why you would get rejected. So a common question that we get is, what if I'm kind of still working on my research? And that is also pretty typical, that when you write your abstract and have to submit for a conference, it's still several months away from the conference and you might be working on your research still. So that's okay to do that. It's fairly common, but you do have to have still have these clear ideas about your hypothesis, your methods, your results, and your conclusions and whatnot. So you just have to do the best you can with where you are in your research. You will get a notification regarding acceptance as well as declinations. So you want to make sure that that you have entered a valid email and that you check it, because that's how you're going to be communicated with afterwards. And the notifications will be sent out during the week of October 20th. So travel awards, you're probably also very interested in knowing about. So there are some travel awards available for participants. And the deadline for the travel awards is September 22nd, midnight as well. And then also the notifications will go out the week of the 20th if you need to get travel support as well. And there will be more details on the site about all the requirements for travel support. Okay, so I'll pause for just a minute and see if anyone has any questions on any of the background, because we've now covered kind of all the basics of applying for submitting your abstract and applying for travel awards for the ERN conference. So if anyone has any questions on that, I'm happy to take them. Otherwise, we'll go on to the next section, which is where we're going to start talking about actually how to prepare your abstract. And the theme of this is going to be how to organize your ideas, how to tell a story, and how to kind of basically tell a scientific story. So I haven't heard of anyone having any questions. So I'm going to go ahead and continue. So here's my advice about before you even kind of start trying to write anything, just try to think a little bit and organize your ideas. And in particular, think about your audience. So who is the audience that you're going to be speaking to in your poster or your oral? And so if you're planning to go on ERN, I already kind of told you that this is a very large conference. It's super exciting. It's a lot of fun, but there is a broad area of STEM disciplines that are represented here. And so what do they know or don't they know about your particular area? And this is a really important thing to think about so that you kind of write to the audience. It's always really important to write to your audience. You want to write to your reviewers, of course, as well as generally who's going to be at the conference, because they'll read your title and abstract and they'll get interested and want to come by and talk to you. And so if for ERN, my recommendation is that you make sure that you're writing to someone, like I said, in the case of the reviewer, likely to be in the general area of your field, but not your specific area. So you have to be really careful about that and think about what maybe what they do know and what they don't know, more importantly, about your specific area and how you talk about that in your abstract. You absolutely want to organize your abstract so you cover all of the areas that are defined here and as part of the requirements. And generally, you don't have to always follow this exact format, but I would say it's definitely recommended. I think if you follow by starting out with your hypothesis, or maybe the background and hypothesis, you could easily flip-flop and do background first and then your hypothesis. But you want to motivate people first off, right off the bat, about why they should care about your work. And that typically is done through a hypothesis or potentially followed on with background information.
I think Diamond had her hand raised.
Okay, Diamond, would you have a question? I'd be happy to answer. If you want to unmute and ask your question.
Yes, my question is, sometimes I get like so many ideas. So what would be like the easiest way for me to narrow down what I want to do?
What you want to do is share in your poster. I would say the easiest way is to think about like the work that you did and what whole story can you tell that will be most compelling. So you want to be able to tell the story of what you investigated, how you went about it, what your results are, and what your conclusions are about that. So it has to be about work that you've actually completed and you have some results that you can share. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, so if you want to elaborate, I'd be happy to try again.
No, you answered my question. So pretty much the work that I've completed already and my findings and why people should care.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Thank you for the question. That was great. Okay. All right, so I'm going to continue on. So we want to organize our ideas and know our audience. And then you want to kind of tell a story with your abstract. It might sound, I remember when I first kind of heard this concept of kind of telling a story, I thought, well, this is science. This is not, this is not liberal arts. This is science. What are you talking about? But actually, the craft of really telling a good scientific story is quite important. When you think about just telling a story, you think about, what is a story made of? There's a beginning, there's kind of actors or people involved, there's some kind of middle, maybe there's some twists and turns, and then there's some kind of nice conclusion, and then there's maybe questions, things that you discovered. So these are the kinds of things you want to think about when you're preparing your abstract and you're preparing how to tell this story. This is before you even sit down and preparing your poster or your oral presentation or anything. What is the story that you want to tell? Like, why is it really important that you did this investigation? And what was like maybe unexpected? Like a lot of times you find results that you weren't expecting, and that's actually kind of maybe a really interesting part of the story that you want to share. And like I say, that's kind of like the twists and turns that you might have along the process that you were going. What were some of the exciting parts that you discovered or that you learned when you were doing your research and you got to your results? Those are the kinds of things that you want to kind of craft into a story, and then that should be articulated through your abstract. And a few tips about telling a scientific story. So then kind of before I was mostly talking about stories in general, but when you're trying to tell a good scientific story, the thing, especially in this case with what we've talked about, is first of all, in science, we tend to learn more and more about less and less. What does that mean? It's like you get really focused in a particular area that you're investigating. And so you get very, very deep into the details of that. And what's really important when you're trying to tell a story is learning the art of balancing all of those technical details and the cool things about the methods that you developed and the results that you had, but also doing that in a way where you can reach your audience. Because remember, even when you're going to very specific technical conferences, you're usually the person in the room that knows the most about what you're talking about. You may not feel that way, but that's the truth, because you're the one who went through and did that detailed research and figured out all these things. So what's the most important thing, in my opinion, to crafting a good presentation and a good abstract is figuring out how to tell that story in a way that's very accessible to people who don't have that detailed knowledge. And if you can do this, trust me, it'll take you a long ways, because you're always going to have to be telling your story, getting people to fund your research, hire you to do the research or whatnot, and being really good at, getting people excited, teasing them with the cool things that you did learn and discover, but also saying that in a way that's very easy to understand by people who are technical. They're scientists or engineers or someone probably in STEM, but they just don't have the very specific domain knowledge that you have. So that's really the craft and the secret to telling a good scientific story.
I just wanted to reiterate and add something here. So I'm a chemist by training, but I'm also a science policy advisor. So I work in the science policy world, and we got specific training on the pitch, right? So really communicating why somebody should care about this work, why somebody should care about this research who knows nothing about it. So if I'm in chemistry and I know nothing about, biology or physics or nanoscience, really communicating to lay audiences, right? So these are scientific audiences, but they may not have your specific expertise, as Dr. Marianne said. And basically, I would practice your pitch with your friends or your classmates who are not in your field, right? So do a 1 minute, 30-second pitch. Why should we care about this work? What is it, the work that you're sharing? What societal benefit is it bringing? How is it making the world a better place? Are you improving on the existing process? Like, what is your role in the grand scheme of things? Like, did you do the synthesis part? Did you do the characterization part? So, like, this is really the storytelling piece is incredibly key to us as scientists and researchers, because you have to get funding, right? How are you going to get support from the general public? Like, if you had to pitch something to city council or to a school board, right? Like, how do you really just practice your pitch? And that can help you kind of narrow in on, well, what is the benefit of the work that I'm doing? How, what is that story? So it's incredibly key. So I just wanted to reiterate that.
Great, thank you so much, Iris. That you really can't overemphasize how important it is. So I really appreciate all your comments on that as well. And hopefully all the attendees will take that to heart. Very good. So now we're kind of going into a little bit of on actually developing your abstract. So kind of more of the details of this. And these are the requirements, the guidelines for the ERN conference. So you have to have an abstract title. Again, try to make it, something catchy and not too deep, not too much text and not too detailed. So here's the limits: 100 characters, a sample as well. And then there's the abstract primary author and who will be the presenter, put their name in there, your institution, where you're attending school, your co-authors as well, and then the co-author institutions. And then as far as the abstract itself, there's the 3,000 character limit that includes spaces and punctuation. And again, the required sections that should be in there. So next, I want to take a couple minutes to go through a little sample abstract and dissecting this. So I'm going to give you a minute to read through this. It may or may not be in your field, so I can tell you it's not my field. So it might take a little bit, but I want you to think about this and the components of it, and we're going to try to dissect it together. So I'm going to give you about a minute or so to read through this abstract, and then hopefully together we can look at and find all the components in here. So this one is about Bergman's rule and animals and the relationship between size and elevation. I'll be quiet. Okay, so hopefully you've had enough time to read through it. If you're like me, and like I say, this is not in my particular area. I actually read through it several times when I, was first going through this sample. And this is a sample that's provided as part of the materials for submitting the abstract to ERN. And so I don't know what your first impressions are, but it's fairly dense in technical information, but it does convey a lot of information. So the first thing I want us to think about, is there a hypothesis here? Was anyone able to determine what the hypothesis? We said this was a required section. Anyone found that in here? See if anyone's brave and wants to try. If not, Mariana, did you find a hypothesis?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd say the hypothesis would be that in their research, they should be able to confirm Bergman's rule.
Right, absolutely. So their hypothesis is that they want to test whether ectotherms show reversed. They want to confirm the Bergman's rule, but they also are really kind of looking at whether or not there's a reversed size relationship that is hypothesized by Bergman's rule. Very good. Okay. How about why is this important? Anyone figure out why it's important? You can just, paraphrase. Why is this important? Anyone find that? Okay, so I think for me, when I was reading through this one, I found this part up here talking about the importance. So they're talking about Bergman's rule and its application to exotherms. So there's a lot of information already about basically the other kinds of the physiological basis for the birds and mammals, but they're kind of curious about reptiles. And there's apparently the background is that whether or not this applies is a bit controversial. So that kind of states a little bit of the importance of this. But they found that there is some research on spiny lizards that shows support for the rules. So maybe it is that it also applies to this other genus of basically to reptiles. And then the methods that are in here as well. Did anyone kind of find out what actually they did? The methods is kind of like, what did they do? What did they do to try to support their hypothesis? That's what we call methods. Anyone find that in here? Mariana?
Yeah, so it would be, I think it's I'd say the third sentence, if I'm not mistaken, where they explain how they measured, how they digitally measured the 5 populations across Arizona.
Absolutely, that's exactly right. So that is actually what they did, was that their methods. They measured these, body size and with these different calipers and different, populations and mid, low, and high ranges and whatnot. So perfect, very good. So those are the methods. And see, it's just basically two sentences about that. How about their results? Anyone can determine what the results are? What did they find? Basically, what did they find by taking these measurements and analyzing them? Mariana? Yeah.
They found that there was indeed an inverse correlation.
Right, exactly. So they found that there was the body size at the elevations was significantly smaller and then at lower elevations. So that basically leads to their conclusions, which is that there is an inverse correlation based on the fact that of what they found. So that's kind of their conclusions. And then this kind of supports also that there's a physiological explanation for this phenomena related to the thermoregulation in the exotherms. And then just in the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and jump to look at the future research, which was probably easy to pick out because it says future research, which is nice. So you do always want to make sure that you include something about the future research and how that is going to apply to your work, and what would be the next thing you investigate? What's interesting about what you found and what don't you know yet? Okay, great. So thank you all for participating in that. Hopefully that was helpful for you to digest an existing abstract, so to kind of help you identify when you're writing your own, what are the different components, how do you put them together to make a nice story. So just a few more details on the abstract. You always, of course, want to include your acknowledgement of your funders, as well as have your abstract approved by your faculty mentor. So in summary, you want to make sure you include all of the required material sections in there, and you want to try to tell a story with your abstract, and try to tell a good, really, pitch, like Iris said, and practice with someone who doesn't know your research, who's maybe even in a different field, and whatnot. So with that, I'm happy to entertain any questions, any additional questions, or get feedback or comments. And I'll share with you the ERN conference email, and you're welcome to contact me about anything about the webinar. If you have questions about the ERN, please go ahead and contact AAAS. So I will stop my share and see if there's any more questions or comments or feedback anyone would like to give. Is this helpful?
While we'll give everybody a chance, you can put questions in the chat, or you can come off mute and ask your question. But thank you so much, Marianne. There's a few things I wanted to just reiterate it and reinforce. And one is that, as Dr. Lynn said, the main reason our abstract reviewers reject abstracts is for not following directions. And that's like leaving out key parts of the abstract. Oh, Claire, can you drop the survey link in the chat for anybody that has to leave? I do have some closing slides, actually one closing slide with some additional information. So if you can hang on for a few minutes, that would be great. So before I give the closing slide, please make sure you complete the survey if you have to leave now. All of the information, additional details on the abstracts and travel awards are on our ERN website. So you can just go to our website and click on those tabs to read all of the eligibility and criteria information. But I do want to just highlight, definitely, please review the guidelines carefully. Again, the biggest reason these abstracts get rejected is simply for not following directions, for leaving out key parts of the abstract. Multiple students submitting the exact same abstract, and we understand that students may work with a particular advisor in a group, but having 2 students submit the same abstract is not acceptable. You have to be really clear about what part of the project that you did and share the work that you did. So those are the main reasons that abstracts get rejected, for just not following the guidelines. More than one student submitting the exact same abstract. Those are kind of like automatic rejections. So really, make sure you review the guidelines. As Dr. Lund said, please get your advisor to take a look at this. And faculty advisors are busy. We're all busy. So you can't send it to them at the last minute. You need to give them a few days to look over it. So definitely you want to have their eyes on this, to review it, or somebody else that may be a mentor or advisor to you at your home institution to take a look at it. And we make sure that we're going to notify you the week of October 20th if your abstract was accepted, and also if your travel award application was accepted. So just in case you weren't accepted, you still have time to register as a general attendee by the December 15th deadline. So if you don't get selected for an abstract or a travel award, you still can attend the ERN conference if your department has money, if your advisor has money to pay the general registration fee. So we're making that deadline early enough so that you can still attend. So I'll pause now to see if there are questions that Dr. Lund can answer.
There's one question in the chat. It says, can I submit an abstract which I've submitted to another journal or conference?
Yes, as long as it's research that you've done, yes, that we know that there are multiple conferences coming up. So yeah, we don't have a problem with that as long as it's work that you have done.
And there's another question. Oh.
Go ahead.
If an abstract does not conform to the requirements but appears interesting enough and relevant to the conference, could or would they reach out for more information regarding the judges or reviewers?
No. You need to follow the guidelines. That's a hard no. Any other questions? Marianne, anything else you wanted to add before I give the closing slide?
No, I think it's happy to answer any questions anyone else might have afterwards, but I'm ready to turn it over to you.
Okay, hopefully. Okay, hopefully everyone can see this. Thank you so much, Dr. Lund, for another amazing webinar and some golden nuggets. Please make sure you complete the post-webinar survey. We're dropping the link in the chat again, and all of you registered for this webinar will receive an email to complete that survey if you didn't catch the link in the chat. So again, for more information about the ERN Conference in general, visit our website. When you go to that website, you'll see a tab for abstracts and you'll see a tab for travel award applications. All of the information about criteria, eligibility, guidelines you can find there. Also, we share a lot of information, a lot of resources, and a lot of opportunities on our ERN social media outlets. So definitely follow us on Twitter, ERN Conference, and follow us at LinkedIn. I share a lot on LinkedIn about like scholarships, internships, research opportunities, all types of opportunities and information on these outlets. And there is another opportunity that I would like to share with you after you submit your ERN abstracts. So after that September 22nd deadline, we also have another opportunity that I just wanted to share with you before you leave. Our AAAS annual meeting is in February of next year, and they have a student e-poster opportunity. So if you're interested in that opportunity after you submit the ERN Conference abstract, and you have until October 11th, which is my birthday, to apply for that opportunity also. So again, that's another opportunity that we're sharing with you in addition to this ERN Conference opportunity. So we'll circle back to see if there were any other questions. Any thoughts, any comments? Okay, and probably by mid next week, just come back to the ERN website under webinars and you will see the recording. We'll also send the recording and a PDF of these slides to everyone that was registered for this webinar. Let me just double check to see if we missed anything. Did we miss anything? Oh, Paula, in case we cannot discuss any full results due to QAQC, what do you recommend for our abstracts? Good question. I would share as much information possible to support your abstract. Of course, anything that's confidential, you don't have to share, but definitely provide as much information as possible that align with the guidelines. And you also bring up a good point. If there's work that you're still doing, if there are some parts of your research that aren't finished, you can easily just include, what those are. You can just add a few sentences saying, we're still working on XYZ and our next steps are, XYZ. So you don't have to have full results for everything, but share what you have results for, and you can just also include what you're still working on or what you still have yet to finalize. That's always good so that the reviewer can see that you have some next steps involved and you might not have finished all of those steps. So that was a great question. Anything else, Marianne? I don't know if we caught everything. I think we did, but any closing thoughts from you? Thank you so much for these great tips.
Oh, yes. Well, thank you for including me on this webinar. I always enjoy it and have a lot of fun. And I just, wish everyone good luck. And, hopefully I'll see you at the ERN conference. And if you see me there, stop by and say hello. I love to meet people who have come to the webinars in the past, and I'll stop by your poster or your oral and see it if I can. I will be serving as a judge, so I'll have my own schedule of reviewing things, but hopefully there'll be lots of time to catch up and meet you there. And good luck with your submissions, and feel free to reach out with questions.
And best wishes to all of you. I think I saw something in the chat. I don't know if it was answered, but yes, posters are for current undergraduate and graduate students. Orals are for graduate students only. Just reiterating that. So best wishes, and we hope to see you all at ERN. And again, if your abstract was not accepted or if you did not receive a travel award, definitely reach out to your advisor or mentors or those in your department leadership to see if they have money or support to send you to the ERN conference. You will still have time to register by the December 15th deadline to attend. So thank you all for joining us, and please complete the survey.